nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this.
I gotta figure that out here, but welcome to SA Soccer Roundtable. Back from Eagle Pass last night, late. Decent drive. Donated a little bit of money to the local community. Had some good food. Saw some pretty good soccer. So that was my evening last night. Rafa, you were on the 50-50 with Coach Kano, Steve, a.k.a. 78 Soccer Training, which we'll go over his weekly rankings here, and several coaches. So it was a fun episode for that here. A lot of coach speak, if you ask me, but
it was like the coaches episode. All the coaches, Coach.
it was a really
Coach Strong and Coach Wool, from Cedar Park. Coach Strong from Bernie. It was always a pleasure talking to them. So it was fun.
And Coach Kano from
Canyon, and Coach Steve, like I said, formerly Premier, also Texans. That's where we used to coach together there with Texans. So, so it was a good episode. It was fun. We talked about the chaos from the realignment, how we did our show, and we kind of talked about some of the stuff, some of the changes and some of the surprises, and I'm sure there's some teams happy that certain teams are leaving certain districts and some are not.
Bernie was very excited about certain teams leaving. Steve is getting, I believe he's getting a VIP ticket as well. I don't know if Coach seemed a little.
Coach Strong's going to give him the VIP treatment. Maybe give him some barbecue too up there in the press box. That's what Joe needs to give us there when we go to the Northside games. So.
Pressure's on Joe, but no, like I said here, it should be a good show tonight. For here, the Empire Salute.
That's our realtor right there, our favorite realtor.
Oh, maybe you should do a read since she's here. Thank you so much for Rafa for the support. Man, what am I, chop liver? Come on.
And any winnings there at the casino,
or? We came back with more than we left, and that includes having a dinner as well for me and Monica. So. Not as successful as last year, but still was a fun trip. Always nice to let Monica go down and donate some money and come back with what we came back with a little bit more than what we left.
No trip to the wagon wheel.
To the wagon wheel. It was late because AJ got home.
That 2.5 hour drive. I remember those days. I remember we played when we had to come from Del Rio to SanAntonio. We had to be up at 6 and leave live by 7 because our JV would play like at 11, then the varsity would play like at 1. So those were not fun times.
I do have a question though, and especially when we're talking about realignment. To go down to Laredo is what, 3-4 hours?
It's about a 3-hour drive, 2.5, 3 hour, depending on traffic.
Kind of similar. Okay. So if you're playing a weekday game, you're getting back with 11:30, 12. Kids are turning around having class. Now, if you're like AJ, you're like, Dad, hey, I haven't missed any first or second period classes. Can you sleep in a little bit? Sure. But some kids do not have that flexibility for that here. So But let's get into Mr. Steve's rankings, and we'll go into yours for it real quick here. This is the boys. He's got Reagan, Southwest, Lee, Warren, Piper, Bernie, Harlan, Churchill, San Antonio Christian, and John Jay. And of course, records courtesy of Max Preps for that for the boys. And then for the ladies, Smithson Valley, Reagan, Clark, Johnson, Sotomayor, Canyon Lake, Wimberley, Davenport, Medina Valley, and O'Connor for that here. Along those lines here. I know we're going to get into yours. I will say they look very similar. There's a few teams, and maybe the order is a little bit top here, but I think Steve's pretty good. Although he did drop Johnson, he did promote Johnson over Soto for the girls, and dropped Davenport, who had a loss to Wimberley. Didn't really promote Wimberley that much, which to me is a little bit surprising. But Canyon Lake at 11-0.
That's a state finalist right there. You got state finalists.
So, like I said here, and I forgot to check the boys' side here. His number 2 dropped.
Chief's not gonna be happy about that one.
For that here, yeah. But he did go up from 2 to 3. Christian and John Jay sneak in, but a huge drop for Churchill for that here, who were 13-1 and 1 for that here. So let's get into yours. Let me see here. So Rafa, the 2026 pound for. Oh, I needed to update that. It's not the preseason anymore. I missed that here. The honorable mention: Medina Valley 13-0-1, 4-0 in district. Warren 9-1-1, 5-1-1 in district. Cole 13-2-1. Oh, they're not 13-2-1 in district. They are. I always make one mistake here. Cole is 4-8-27. Lady Cole is 13-2-1, 2-1 in district. So for that here. Southwest 13-2-1, 7-0, and Antonian 14-5-1 and 5-0 in district. So out of these 5, which is the closest one to getting into the top 2?
Getting up there in the top 10 probably be Medina Valley. I think Medina Valley and I think Warren. I think those are the 2 really kind of knocking on the door. Both have great seasons. I think the only knock on, like I said, with Medina Valley, and like I said, is that shootout win against LBJ, which right now they're LBJ's towards the bottom of the standing. So that was kind of the little knock on that. Yeah, you're playing the bottom team. You better pound them. So not not go to PKs. Warren, like I said, yeah, they're I think I wouldn't be surprised if they get a win this week. They could be, jumping into the top 10 the next time we go around.
You say that, but Southwest is also
Southwest too. Yeah, they did have like I said, a shootout, win versus Legacy, so that kind of kept them a little bit. But hey, they're still, like I said, with the girls, even like I said with Antonia, and like I said, and it's a tight race. There's some really good teams, and then Cole, I was looking out; they were close to getting into the top 10, and the big loss for them was the shocking loss to 2-8 Luling, and that's a team that kind of, I know Luling doesn't. That's a team to kind of keep an eye on there. But like I said, we'll see what Cole does in a couple of weeks. They got a big game coming up with Lavernia, so that's going to be probably going to determine who who is going to take control of that district. But Lulin's kind of been like the boogeyman there in that district for them for 27-4A.
So number 10, Shirts Clemens Buffaloes. I was going to say if it's the boys team, the D column is I think 6 deep. I think you said for that here. Medina Valley didn't have a shootout. They won 7-0.
Well, I saw a report different on that Riddle thing. So unless they misguided something, switched it or something, because they
might have been the boys.
Might have been, like I said, there was something, like I said, it was reported, so they must have reported around. Okay, yeah, so it might have been the boys. I think they reported it wrong and so forth. So my bad on that. Like I said, because I was looking at to kind of follow up with their district. It's I get most of my news from them, so they must have had like a misprint on that one. But still, like I said, they're still close. They're getting there. They did have a close win with Alexander, so they had a 1-0 win. So that's, like I said, for them. But they did have a big win over United, so good. So on track. So they got a good showdown coming up at United South, and then they got Del Rio to finish off. But speaking of Clemens, like I said, Clemens started real hot, but they've got a couple ties.
The boys team affecting the girls team.
yeah, that's the strangest thing, that the boys have, like, they've gone started district with 4 straight ties. So I wonder if that's starting to rub off now on the girls team. So, but still a great, like I said, the Lady Buffalo is still great, still a great team. Like I said, so early, they got like I said, they got some tough ones still coming up, and then, like I said, it's still in the kind of middle of the district play. So, but they've so far so good. Like I said, a couple ties, like I said, with our good old buddy Coach Cano, and then, but they have a good win to start off the season, the district season over Steel. So, I think they'll really good chance to make the playoffs this year.
Number 9, the Lady Panthers from O'Connor, 10-4, 6-1 in district, in a very even district for 28 for the Northside schools for the ladies.
That's really a 3-team race up top. For that. It's kind of similar we had a couple years ago. Which include O'Connor, Brennan, and Taft. But this time you have O'Connor, Warren, and Soto. Like I said, O'Connor, we've seen them a few times play. Great, like I said, the only blemish was that loss against Soto, but they're still in the mix. So I think we'll see what kind of change. The biggest thing is what kind of changes they make on the second go around, because they're about to finish, like I said, the first leg of the district schedule. That's going to be the key. What kind of adjustments do you make when you face those teams again? And like I said, I think O'Connor, they've kind of learned from that. I know we talked to their coach. Like I said, they lost the game to 2 set pieces. So, so I think if they can minimize some mistakes and then maybe take advantage and, trying to get it going really early on. I think if they can score early on, I think they can take full control of that game. But so far, so good for O'Connor.
Sotomayor, another team out of 28, 10-3-2, 6-0-1 in district. Your thought on the Lady Wildcats?
Yeah, that's been, like I said, first place right now by half a game. Like I said, can they keep it up? For the second round, that's the thing. How are teams are going to adjust to them now? They've seen them one time. Especially, like I said, you have like a Warren team, and you have O'Connor, and almost want to throw in Taft too. What adjustments would they make when they face them again? So now they have the target on their back, because they kind of snuck up on some teams right in the first round, and now, like I said, they know they're for real, and like I said, and teams are going to be, I think, better prepared for them. But it's great year for the Lady Wildcats.
I will say they have a sneaky matchup tomorrow versus Harlan.
Yeah, that could be a trap game for them. So they got to bring their A game for that.
Harlan's fighting for playoff life. They were 3-1-1 and have lost 2 in a row. So Harlan does want to kind of get back into the playoff
Mm-hmm.
hunt, and beating Sotomayor would be good help to being able to do that here. Davenport out of the 4A, 10-2 with 2-1 in district, still a little bit early for the Wolves.
The only blemish was that close loss to Wimberley, which actually was a controversial over that because of a goal that was disallowed. And if you kind of look at the replay, that linesman was not in the correct position to make that call.
We're
so
not bashing linemen here.
it's
We don't want to get the yellow card.
I was getting some text messages right now there about the card situation with a lot. They're going card crazy right now, but yeah, or we don't have the little that unless we're at I forgot what stadium we were at. We saw the bar. Oh, it was at Holy Cross where I saw the bar there. But yeah, but don't discount that game. I think they'll make I think the second time around, I think they'll make the adjustments, and I think they'll get. I think they'll even the series with Wimberley. But like I said, they also still have to worry about Canyon Lake too. So that's one thing they don't want to do is lose to Canyon Lake and kind of fall a couple games behind those two, because it's going to be very difficult on the second go around to try to. You really have to kind of win out in order to win the district title.
Speaking of that, and I know they're not in the top 5. Marble Falls at 0-2, a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I think it might be a little rebuilding for them, but I would not take them lightly. They've had some tough games.
They've still got a good record, just starting off in district.
But if you look at some of the
2 games,
if you look at some of the results from them, there's some close results, and they're not a slouch. So, like I said, they only lost to Wimberley 1-0, so they gave them a good scare. I mean, and like I said, they had a little surprise they lost to Long Creek, but I think we talk about Long Creek. They could be that one team that could be even being a first year varsity team could get some sneaky wins, and they were able to get one. So, but like I said, they got a tough matchup tomorrow night. Like I said, Marble Falls got Davenport, so Davenport knows that they're in for a game, because with the that result that Wimberley had, just getting by Marble Falls, it's a tough place to play over there.
Clark Cougars. I have the Cougarettes, but I think they go officially by Cougars. I think the dance team goes by Cougarettes, as I was trying to update the title here. So 14-2-2, 4-0-1 in district, and I want to believe that's a 3-way tie. I think this is the 3-way tie.
Yeah, 3-way tie for first, and 27-6A with Johnson and with Reagan, and big game Friday, which we'll talk about in a bit. But so far, great season for the Lady Cougars. I know last year, they were kind of in the middle of the pack, but I think they've kind of turned things around, and they're a legitimate threat to. I know the Reagan was the favorite to win the district. They're a legitimate threat to for them winning the district title, and like I said, I expect some good things from the Lady Cougars here on out.
I will say and we're not doing standings tonight. We'll do it next week here. I think the top 3 is very secure, but that 4th spot's gonna be just crazy through the rest of the year, because outside of the top 3, you could go all the way down to 7 to Madison, and I think it's wide open for that final spot. Speaking of 27, Johnson Jaguars 10-2-1, 4-0-1 as well. Thoughts on the Lady Jaguars?
Yeah, I mean, year in, year out, they're just one of those perennial teams that always in contention, for district title for 27-6A, and to also for them to go deep in the playoffs as well. And like I said, so far, they had a draw, and like I said, it's still tight. Like I said, it's going to be a tight race between those 3, and I wouldn't, like I said, I would not count them out as far as anything. It's going to come down to who makes the right adjustments, in the kind of like in the second half of the season, uh, for them to, try to get, they get that win. Uh, they do have a tough matchup tomorrow. They do have Churchill. I will not, can't sleep on Churchill. Churchill's they've kind of turned some things around there, and they're doing some good things. And like I said, the only blemish for the Johnson Lady Jaguars has been that 0-0 tie with Reagan and so forth. And so it's like I said, tough game. Like I said, coming up with Churchill, so can't look past that game before a matchup sooner or later with Clark.
Number 4, Canyon Lake. You mentioned them earlier. 11-0 and 2-0 in district out of a very tough district in 4A26.
What did I say about Canyon Lake? That was a team I told Coach Cano, like, hey, this is a team we really keep an eye on. I think last year they went deep. They made it to the regional final, fell short to Wimberley. I think this year, I think they've learned from a lot of that, and so far they've turned it up a notch. They've had some high scoring games, but the big test is tomorrow, in which I'll say for they have a big test tomorrow, and if they get past that test, then they're gonna be they're for real, and who knows, they may even crack into the top 3. So to kudos to the Lady Hawks over there. Like I said, that I think this is an opportunity for them to really have a breakout season and get past beyond the regional final, maybe even go on and get to Georgetown this year.
Well, 3 would be Wimberley, which is 11-1-1, 3-0 in district. And as you mentioned, they face a tough matchup. So if Canyon Lake does get the victory, which would be against Wimberley, I'm assuming you would see at least a flip flop in positions.
Yeah, like I said, Wimberley. Like I said, they got by test number 1 with Davenport. Some controversy there, but hey, sometimes you got to win something. Like I said, you got to win some of those tight games and so forth. And that's what when you're a state finalist, you said you have a target on your back. I think that's the first time we had 2 state finalists face each other in district play. From the same in a while, yeah. So, like I said, they got another tough one tomorrow, and if they can get by tomorrow, they'll have control of the district. Going into the later ends of the first round. And it's good for them that way. Like I said, those tiebreakers are going to come, in the end, and also, goal differential too. So it's really for them that they need to take opportunities to just also score goals too. But, this is, like I said, 27-4 is just a brutal district, even though, like I said, it's Wimberley, Davenport, Canyon Lake. You can still, you can throw in, like I said, a Marble Falls, maybe Fredericksburg, and then that little sneaky team from Long Creek. It makes things very interesting there. That you have to bring your A game. You cannot fall asleep, because if you do, it can come back and bite you in the butt and get a loss.
Number 2, the Reagan Rattlers, 12-0-2, 4-0-1 in district.
Reagan, another great season for them. Like I said, I actually got to see them play on Friday night against Lady Lee Volunteers, and like I said, convincing win. And even though League made it really competitive, they had a couple of opportunities, they just couldn't get it. But it was a fun game to watch. Reagan just like I said, they have such a great touch of the ball, very physical. They take command on that field, and like I said, they got a test tomorrow. And like I said, for them, this is a key game for them to say kind of start separating a little bit for some of the from those teams from the top 3.
And then the number 1 team, and I don't think it's even up for debate, at least listening to you guys on the 50/50 podcast last night. You're like, shut it down. There is no discussion. Smithson Valley, the Lady Rangers, 13-0, 6-0. I think when I saw it, I think they've only been scored on once. Yeah, in District 1's goal, and All season long, only allowed 3 goals for that here. So I don't know how anybody can say, as far as for at least the SanAntonio, that they are not the top team. Question is, when it comes to Region 4, leading on you in your 50-50, are they the top team in Region 4?
Well, Cedar Park might have a say about that. No, Coach Cole might have a say about that because they are the defending state champs. So, for D2, so they might have a say. And that's the thing. If we don't know if Cedar Park, if they end up in, we know Central Valley be D1. If Cedar Park sends up D1, that's going to be one heck of a matchup if they do face each
That'd
other.
be early too, right?
Well, no, because if Cedar Park
that's
does,
right. They're both
unless like I said, unless they get like a second seed and so forth, then that there's a regional final right there. So, and I mean, that's what you get from 25 5A and 26A when they face each other the first
Yeah, that's right.
game of the playoffs is basically a regional final. What you can say about Spencer Valley? I mean, like you mentioned, they've only allowed 1 goal, and that was against a Bernie champion, and that was probably the closest game they had. Was just a 3. They still won by 3 goals, and I mean they've just been blowing out teams, and even for non-district games, if you look what they've done, I mean,
66 goals according to Max Preps. They've scored 66 goals and have allowed 3.
Yeah, they've been beating some really good teams like College Park, Hendrickson, and I think this is Coach Jackson's best. Like I think Coach Hanneman has said it himself. He looks at he thinks this is their best team they've had, and I think this is the best.
A lot,
yeah, that says a lot. Especially come from him, and this is could be the year for them. This is a make or break for you because you have all that talent and so forth. And like I said, the key is who they face in that first round in that playoff. And you got some sneaky good teams on that. In that 25-6A. I know Leander's having a good season. I think right now Cedar Park, I think it's in second right now. So it's
Coach Cano listening. Tasco Region 4
1 2
up 30 minutes ago. 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good question.
Yeah.
Set it up pretty well.
Yeah. So those are, like I said, honestly, for the girls team, those are your top 2 teams. And I know with Coach Will mentioned yesterday, they had they have battling the injury bug and all that, and that's something that Spencer Valley needs to kind of hopefully avoid too, is having the injury bug, because you don't want to get it towards the end of towards the end of the district play, right before playoffs. Like I said, they're kind of on cruise control right now, but I like I said, they're always well prepared, ready to go. I know Steve went to go see them play, and he said that he was very impressed, by Piper's team, but they end up getting it. Cincinnati still won 5-0. So, like I said, I think this is a special year for them, and you can't let the pressure, build up on them. Just have to take it one game at a time. But I do, like I said, depending who they match up in that first round, and I think this still be fair for that. I think they'll have a good shot winning the region, and maybe, like I said, getting to Georgia, winning that state semifinal, and getting to that that state final game. And I think they have a good shot to do it.
So moving to the boys. Cornerstone, which plays a independent schedule. Davenport, John Jay, Cole, and Judson. So obviously I'm partial to John Jay, so Steve's ranking is better because he has them in. I'm a little intrigued by Cornerstone. This isn't the first time that you've had Cornerstone in your rankings. They do play an independent schedule. I have seen where they have played some UIL games. But your thoughts on the honorable mentions are just outside.
Yeah, so I'll start with Jay. Jay's starting to peak at the right time. I know you've seen them, and you've mentioned that to me. They're starting to get things together. I would definitely be very worried about them in the second round of district play, because I think the boys, I think they took their lumps early on. I think maybe defensively and all that, but I think they're starting to kind of get it together now. And like I said, I know they have a big game coming up, with Legacy. If they can get that win, like I said, they're only 1 game behind Southwest, and they'll face again. And anything can happen.
I did see Chief because I went and watched the Legacy and Southwest game. Happened to sit with Chief for about a half, and I told him that John Jay is looking for that rematch for that here. After talking to AJ, he's like John Jay's. I tell him, hey, calm down a little bit because it's as Chief mentions, it's easy to say you can beat them, but until you actually do, it's hard. And I will say, Southwest is also improving. They 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 outclassed Legacy, and it could have just been an off game, but I will say the Legacy and Southwest crowd from both sides was outstanding and good to see supporting on both teams. I think that was Tuesday for that here, where they had the community drive, to be able to support the schools. But Chief, I'm hoping that John Jay can knock Southwest down a peg or two in the next week or two. Cole is one that also surprises me that they haven't cracked your top 10 as of yet, because I do know you like Cole.
Yeah, they've had a great season so far, and they've been some good teams. I still like I said, I have them as an honorable mention. I still want to see more from them. They have a big test actually tomorrow with the Kennedy Rockets, who Kennedy's actually they're 8-1. So and that was another team I was looking, maybe also considered as far as an honorable mention. So they have a big game tomorrow. If they can get by them, I can tell you this: they have 3 games coming up, and these 3 games are going to kind of see who they really are. They got Kennedy coming up on tomorrow. And then a really sticky good game versus a Gonzalez next Tuesday. But they're hosting, like I said, they're hosting these next 2 games, and then the big one on Friday the 13th at Lavernia. And like I said, I know Lavernia. Like I said, they're on my preseason poll. I know they had some really rough start in the in the non-district, but hey, they're playing teams. They're playing some of these state caliber teams, but they're starting to get things together, starting to make some noise. They have a big game also tomorrow too, so which we'll talk about. But this is a real 2 test for Cole, and if they can win these 3 games, yeah, then they're for real, and and I want to be, like I said, surprised they end up getting into the top 10. Kind of same thing with Davenport too. Davenport, usually plays a tough non-district schedule to play for the kind of like the 5As and some 6As. And right now they're 2-1 in district play. I know they got some tough ones coming up, but I think they're like I said, to me, I think they're still kind of the favorite to win their district. Judson's the surprise right now. They're actually in first place, believe it or not. I think if they can kind of keep it up, and kind of distance themselves, and like I said, I think they have a really good chance to winning the district. And then the last team, like I said, I mentioned about Cornerstone. I have them on because they have actually been some really good teams, some UIL teams, and I know they play independent. Maybe they should consider maybe getting to UIL, kind of like Houston Straight Jesuit or Dallas Jesuit. I think they can compete.
Is there a reason why they don't?
A lot has to do with there was some controversy with I guess player recruitment, but it has nothing to do with the soccer team. It had more to do, I think, with the basketball stuff like that. And so they were no longer allowed on taps or TCal and all that. And I remember reading the backstory about that. To me, honestly, I honestly think they should just apply to get into UIL, and now, what if don't know if there'll be a 5A or a 6A? Normally, since we have 2 private schools, they'll get pushed up to 6A. So if they do get into 6A, if they are going to be put in 6A like the other 2, they may end up being in that district with the 27 6A, like with Churchill or Reagan and so forth. And I think that'll make this really even a little more difficult, going to if they were ever in that district.
That would be interesting. To me, I'm all for them to be able to go forward here. Number 10, Harlan Hawks, 7-4 and 2, 6-0-1 for the Hawks.
Yeah, they started 1-4-1, but look, you see that they're starting to surge now. I know they had a 0-0 tie with Warren, to kind of stay pace with them on top of the district. Um, I know last year we mentioned that they had a little down.
Warren's no slouch, though.
Yeah, Warren's no slouch either. Yeah, so they had a little down year this year, but this year, I don't know, Coach Bird's got them going, and they're in contention. And I like I said, we're looking forward to see what they do in the second half of the season.
Churchill, the Chargers, 13-2-1, 4-1. They're coming off their first loss in district. You have them at 9. I think Steve also had them at 9 after having them ranked in the, I want to say, top 5. I know in my discussions with you, you're like, let's see, when they play the top teams in the district. They lost the first one, and I believe they got a couple others that's coming up very soon against the other top 2 teams in 27.
There you go. Yep. So UIA constitutes private schools of 6A. Yep. So they would have to play in 6A. So I don't know if Cornerstone would want to do that. So we'll see. But yeah, going back to with Churchill, great start to the season for them. They were like the surprise. But then they ran into Reagan, and Reagan with a 3-0 win. And that was gonna be. The kind of like one of the first. Like I said, they did have a win against Brandeis, who, like I said, Brandeis is one of the ones that we thought favored to get into the playoffs. But and they were to get that, which is a key win for them, for Churchill. But this was a big test for them. And they just couldn't get the result. And they have another tough test coming up. I think they have Johnson coming up, so it's going to be a difficult game. And then after that, they got Lee on February 10th. So this, if they can get some results, if they can split it, go 1-1 or even 2 ties, it still puts them in kind of good shape. So it's just kind of stealing some points there to kind of maintain their stay kind of in the top 4 and so forth. But we'll see what they do. If they can get a win over Johnson, I think that'll be a good confidence going into that game versus Lee.
So you think they got a split?
Yeah, I think a split would help. But I mean, for me, I'm going to go for the juggler. I try to go 2-0. So, but
well, I'm talking about for your top 10. If they get a split,
yeah.
Rafa's depending on other results.
They probably could stay. Yeah, they could stay in.
The Lanier Volks, number 8, 11-3-1, 5-0-1 in 5A 27.
Yeah, Lanier, like I said, last year they had a great season. This year they're just doing a repeat. Yeah, following it up, repeat performance. They're undefeated. I think this should have no issue winning District 27 5A. So, so it's a great. Now the thing is, can they, get that success and show it in the playoffs? We'll see. But like I said, so far so good for the Volks.
Number 7. Speaking of Lee, of the Volunteers, 9-3-1, 4-0-1. Catching you a little bit by surprise. I think when you and I talked early in the year, not that you thought that Lee would be poor, but I don't know if you had them in the top 2 in 6A 27.
Yeah, especially like last year, they kind of limped in a little bit. We weren't sure because I know this is a team that, like I said, talking to Angel Gomez, shout out to him. I had to talk with him on Friday because I was with him on Friday watching the game versus Reagan, which they tied 2-2. That was an exciting game, and he mentioned to me that it's a young squad, but also they have some experienced players too, especially on goalkeeping. But when you're a young squad, if you start kind of getting things together, starting to click, and we're starting to kind of see that a little bit. And I saw some of that on Friday, because like I said, Reagan's a very experienced team. Lee's, like I said, they mentioned a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors. But I know Coach Rogers, he coaches them up. He's with all his experience. This team's starting to kind of kind of starting to peak at the right time. So, like I said, they got some key games coming up, and I know they have that big one coming, with Churchill soon, and we'll see how they do on the second half of the district play.
Piper 5A 26 8-2-3 5-0-2 in district. But let's remind people this district is not the average district.
No,
For here.
so the
When you
boys
have
or the
Alamo
girls,
Heights at 1-5, that tells you it's not the average district.
which is surprising there. So, but yeah, Piper, like I said, a couple surprise ties. I mean, they had a tie with Tivy, you know, a little shocked about that one. I know they had a tough one with the Broncos, and I've heard things about the Broncos. I know Coach Strong mentioned about them. That's a team to keep an eye on. Yeah. So, and I was kind of looking at the record, and the record doesn't speak for what they've done for New Braunfels, but really kind of keep an eye on them. But like I said, they got some good wins. They got Piper got a. I know Steve was at that game against when they played Spencer Valley. They got a 2-1 win at home, a big win against Bernie Champion, and then the 3-1 win versus Alamo Heights, and they got a big test coming Friday night. So. Which we'll discuss in a bit. So this game coming on Friday night is going to determine who's going to take control of the lead over the district.
Don't sleep on the Broncos, but yes.
Yeah.
Warren, as we discussed earlier, had a tough draw last night. Number 5, 10-2-2, 5-0-2. Probably the team I've watched second most, just because AJ's club team has several players on there. They are a complete team. I want to say one of the most complete teams that I've seen. They play physical, but they're technical. No real weaknesses overall, at least in my opinion. But the north side, if you don't bring your A game, you can walk away with the draw or a loss, depending on who you're playing.
That with Warren, they've won some really tight games. I know they got some really like a lot of close 1-0
well, they're not going to blow you out. They're not going to blow you out. This is not a team that'll blow you out.
They can if they get hot, and they've done it. Like I said, I know they did it to Stevens. If they aren't clicking on cylinders, they have the capabilities to do that. But the one thing you got to give kudos to them, they know how to win very tight games, especially low scoring games. And that's something that's very hard to do nowadays. And, to win those 1-0, 2-1 games. And I know they've gone 2 straight ties against 2 quality teams I know you were there at the Soto Warren game that, they kind of gave up a goal towards like the almost
last
close
90
to
seconds.
last 90 seconds, and then they almost came back. You said they almost came back and scored the winner. The winner. So, and then then the game on the 4th, yesterday, that 0-0 draw with Harlan, so we'll see what they've learned from these last 2 games, what kind of adjustments they make. So when they do face them again, they got one more coming up with Brennan. I think they should have no problem taking care of Brennan, and then they start the round again with O'Connor, and we'll see. And then they got some tough ones right after that. I know they had a kind of little shootout with Marshall, a little tight one with that one, and also this will have, like I said, a really sneaky good TAF team too as well coming up in the next few weeks.
So a question for you, and I believe it was the Bernie coach. Sorry, I think it was Coach Strong, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure. He mentioned Bernie's also been in a lot of close games this year. You mentioned Southwest has been in closer games than previous
than usual. Yeah.
From a coach perspective, because the Bernie coach liked being in some close games. Does that gear you up for the playoffs? Just for the fact that playoffs, obviously, you're playing typically teams with equal talent, if not maybe even higher talent, along those lines, depending on where you're at. But you expect those games to be close along those lines. Just, you as a coach here, can you kind of talk about just the importance of maybe not every game, but having a good set of games where you can lean on, especially when minutes get tight. At the end of the season.
Most definitely. Like, I mean, those type of games kind of builds character with your team, and also build what they're made of. When you learn from those games, and especially once you're gonna see a lot of that in the playoffs. And because when you get to the playoffs, like you mentioned, you're gonna play teams that are just as good as you or better, and scoring opportunities are gonna
Tighten
be
up.
very very tight and very rare. And if you can take advantage of those, then hold on to a 1-0 lead or 2-1 lead, and you have experience with that, as the players can keeping their composure, especially defensively, keeping your shape and so forth. And then you have, your goalkeeping's doing what they need to be doing. Then yeah, it's gonna help you in the long run because you'll have that. Like I said, that experience goes a long way. You can't really teach that, but the players kind of will feed off of it, and they'll better understand what the objective is, especially when they come. Like I said, they won't have that nervousness. Even though you do get a little nervous during a playoff game, but when you know you've been into those sad situations, there's no panic. You don't hit the panic button, and you don't make those mental mistakes. And that's the key. When you get to the playoffs, who can take advantage of the other team's mental mistakes and so forth. So that, like I said, these tight games are gonna, in the long run, will help you out. Win those close ones.
From a coaching standpoint, though, it adds gray hair. Number 4, Bernie
or your
Greyhounds.
or your blood pressure going up.
Hopefully, obviously you're probably a little bit more fit than I am. So for that here, Bernie 7-1-1, 5-0-1. Speaking of Coach Strong and the Greyhounds, I believe you guys were creating a podcast for the Greyhounds last night as well.
Yeah.
And that was, I will say, and I know Coach Connor was in the chat earlier, but that 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 was one of the best episodes of the 50-50 pod, which is a high bar to get into for that here. But Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie, great season for them. And I know you were like talking to Coach Strong yesterday. He mentioned, how would the players kind of and the team react to them coming up from 4A to 5A, and especially being in the group of death. It was kind of like, okay, we're not gonna make it because we're moving up for 4A. But that wasn't the attitude with the Bernie Greyhounds and also with Coach Strong. And like I said, they finished second in district. They missed it, they were close, knocking off Piper from the district title. And for them, they have had, they've learned from that loss against Laredo Alexander. They've been on a roll. I know they had that one little tie against, with Spencer Valley. And he mentioned about that shootout they had against, with Tybee, that 5-4 game. But he says those games help build character, and he had some tight ones. That rivalry game against Champion, and then the 2-1 win versus Heights. So, and he's got another tough one tomorrow. So, and then, like I said, he's kind of running the gauntlet too, because even after next week, he's got New Braunfels on the 10th. So he's got some tough ones coming up. And he said that you cannot sleep on this district.
No.
Anybody can get you at any night, regardless of the record. He even said that, and but he's done. Like I said, he's just done a phenomenal job there at Bernie High, whether in 4A now here in 5A. Like I said, they're very prepared because, like he does schedule teams that are higher in classification because he knows that he's going to see those type of caliber teams coming into knowing district play, but also in the playoffs and so forth. But like I said, they have a big game coming up, and I think if they can get a win tomorrow, they could say that the really good chance for them to really kind of get a lock on that. I'd say a total lock on that district title, but a good step in the good foot in the door to trying to get it lifting that trophy.
Number 3, the TAPS program, probably the top TAPS program in the San Antonio, for boys and girls, I'd wager. The San Antonio Christian Lions, 17-1, 7-0 in district. Has been pretty dominant, in play. There's been a couple other. I know Central Catholics kind of starting to warm up a little bit here, but San Antonio Christian, So far, number 3, and maybe a deep run in the TAPS playoffs that'll be starting very soon. I think probably in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they go far, and instead of having their logo, we actually get a group picture of them on the field in Georgetown.
Or in Round Rock, yeah.
They're around.
Yeah. So great season for so far for the Lions, and like I said, only one blemish was a loss to Churchill, but hey, no shame on that because Churchill's a great team too. But they've really kind of flexed their muscle. They're here in TAPS play, but on Saturday they have a tough one with their arch nemesis, those dreaded Brownsville schools with Brownsville St. Joseph.
But if you've looked at the standings,
Mm-hmm.
Brownsville is in 3rd place. St.
Yeah.
Mary's Hall
Yeah,
is
St. Mary's
actually is in 2nd. So
which they face, which the Sandwich Christian faces them at St. Mary's Hall on the 10th. So like I said, San Antonio Christian opportunity for them to kind of separate themselves. If they can win these next 2 games, they can pretty much get a lock on, pretty much a control of that district title. So 2 big tests for them, but I'm sure they're really looking for that Saturday against that arch nemesis. They've, like I said, Barnesville St. Joseph's been a thorn on their side, even in the playoffs too when they face each other in the playoffs. So I'm sure they're looking for some payback, and they're like I said, they already beat them once. They got a 4-1 win for the first time around, and I'm sure they're looking for the sweep here.
Number 2, Reagan, 12-3-2, 4-0-1 in district. I don't know what else you can say. Reagan, I think, is one of the top teams,
Mm-hmm.
And has been
Yeah.
in the San Antonio area. Just they're in a tough division as our district, as we talked about here. I don't know what else you can really say about Reagan. The Rattlers, they are, when they're on, they're extremely on, and when they're off, they can still beat you.
Yeah. Yeah, the game I saw them on Friday, they were down each time, and they found a way to come back, and the way they did it, one thing they're very good at is set pieces. And if you face them, giving them set pieces is probably not the best thing to do for them because they take full advantage of it. They have a really good center back that can, he was able to get one in, um, from a centerpiece, and then another one, like another little flick. And actually, I have a video. If you go to our X page, you'll see the video on that little flick on there to score the second goal they scored on Lee. So they're very good on set pieces. They're so good on attack. They're very, like I said, they're fast on the wings and so forth. They can touch the ball. Well coached by Coach Real. Like I said, we knew they were going to be one of the favorites coming in and to win the district. Now, still got some tough ones coming up. They got one, they got a sneaky game tomorrow against a little pesky Clark team that you can't take lightly. So, and then the following week they got Brandeis, and that's another team. I know Brandeis kind of had some struggles, but they still have to bring their A game versus them because, like I said, that could be a little trap game for them.
So I'm just gonna say this: Chiefs money cleared the Rafa bank account to have them put number 1. All kidding aside, here to Chief and Southwest. Like I said here, Southwest Dragons 11-1-1, 7-0 in district. Has been very convincing in district as well. I think I know they beat Jay 3-1, and the game probably wasn't even that close for it here. Along those lines here, I'd probably still have Reagan ahead of Southwest for me personally, but it's close. I've seen Southwest play a couple of times. Talking to Chief, and you've even mentioned this, they've dropped a little bit, but this team, I guess, is a little bit younger for that here, which kind of explains why there's a little bit of drop. And Chief mentioned that next year, just with the talent that they have, that they should rebound like they did last year here. So if you're going to try to catch Southwest, this might be the year to do it. If not, next year they go to 6A, which is a whole separate discussion along those lines. So
they can schedule Reagan next year for a non-district game. There you go. There you go. Already set up a game right there. Make it happen. I want to see that game next year. I want to see Southwest versus Reagan next year. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it was at Toyota Field too, but I'm not getting my chickens up. So
maybe you can use some of your NIL.
Maybe Chief can do like little convincing over there. There at Toyota. But what you can say about Southwest? I mean, they're still on. I think they're starting to pick up the right time, and also I think they're starting to get healthy too. That's the thing.
Yes.
I know they had some injuries early on, but they're starting to get healthy. Those players are really kind of becoming a factor, so forth. And they made a statement in that game against the rivals from Legacy, who kind of ended their winning streak, their district winning streak last year. So, they were up for that, because it was kind of a little payback, for losing that streak. And they turned it up. I think you mentioned and Steve mentioned that they could have, really made it. Could have been like 9-0, 10-0 if you really wanted to. So that's a good sign for them. Can they maintain that level of play? That's going to be the key. Going into like I said, coming into the finishing off this first round of district games, and then going into into the second round, because second round they do have to face Jay, and I'm sure Jay will make whatever adjustments they have to make. I'm sure Southwest will do that, and that should be still a good game. That's a game that
Southwest. So
it'll be at Southwest. It'll be tough, but I think it'll still be a good game. And then we'll see what the other teams, and what kind of adjustments they kind of make. But like I said, right now I still have them as my number one. Like I said, until I guess someone can really knock them off. We'll see. Unless they get, like I said, a couple ties here and there, that could drop them too as well. But they're number one team, here in San Antonio. But like I said, they're moving up to 6A, and I'm saying it here. So you're watching. I want to see that game next year, non-district game. I don't care if it's at Southwest or at Comalander. Make that game happen next year.
Maybe Chief can use because I think he switched over to NISD, right? Maybe he can use a little bit of influence there to have that at fairs. Elias says, "What's up, Rafa?"
Elias.
What's up, Steve? For that here, the good old buddy. Why don't you do the read for Deanna and.
Have her out there too for the SAFC games too. That way she can also promote some of the, some of the houses she's selling, currently.
So P3 Cass, who do y'all think will go further in the playoffs for 5A San Antonio? I think it kind of depends on.
It depends on D1 or D2.
D1, D2, yeah, because we know in like the J and Southwest, if Legacy's finishes in the top 4 with it'll be Legacy and Southwest.
D1.
D1, J would go D2. But to me, I think it's still got to be the teams in 26, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you talk about boys' side for D1, probably the favorite it's still got to be Southwest. But that also comes into Southwest for D1.
Even
D1
over Bernie and Piper.
Well, Bernie's will be a D2.
Well, Bernie will be a D2. That's right. Bernie will be a
Bernie
D2.
would be a D2. And Piper, see, here's the thing with Piper. It depends on who gets in. Remember last year, this should have been a D2, but then getting pushed up to D1 because of one of the results towards the end. So that could come in a factor. But then there's also another. So I think, like I said, for D1, like I said, for boys, for 5A, it'd probably be Southwest. It's my best bet. D2, if Pirate, I think, I don't know for sure Bernie's even there. I think Bernie's got a good chance to go deep. Just depends on that matchup, who they place, from 25 5A. Is it a Liberty Hill or is it a Leander Glen? It could it be one of those teams. I think also Piper too. I mean, we could literally see maybe if Piper does go D2 and Bernie goes D2, we could see both of them end up facing each other in a regional final. But for D1, I think for 5A boys, I think Southwest is a clear favorite for them. And like I said,
any teams in the Valley, obviously the Austin teams are strong, but any teams in the Valley that could challenge Southwest or J?
That depends on on the numbers. I wish I had the numbers.
The D1, D2.
Yeah, Porter. I know Porter's in first place right now, and really, I know Lopez had, but the ineligible player they kind of dropped. They still have the talent. I still think they're still going.
They'll sneak into
the playoffs. I know they're in the 3-game hole, but they'll still sneak in and so forth. So I won't count.
They just won't be a number 1 seed, which would. He asked.
I'm gonna tell you this about Walnut Grove. They're tearing it up. I mean, they have not let up from what they did last year. And if you look at their schedule and look what they're doing, they're taking names and cashing checks, and they, for me, I know with they're inside Texas soccer 50-50, we talked about who is a possibility as a repeat champion. I think they're probably the one. Because you got to look at this. This is who Walnut Grove has beaten. They've beaten Flower Mound, Plano East, Rockwell Heath, the Woodlands, El Cucuy, Wakeland. Those are state caliber state finalists.
Those are some names with pelts.
Those are some teams that have some state championships, and that's why I always preach on this. Those are the type of teams you need to play before district early season play. Those are you need to get your butt in Dallas or in Houston and play those type of level teams, because that's what you're gonna see. And kudos to the Walnut Grove for what I mean, a couple of our tight ones, but some of them have been convincing too. So chances of them seeing together, I think it's a possibility, but also who depends on who comes out in Region 3 too. I know last year was a surprise team with Angleton. One team we kind of keep an eye on is maybe a Rosenberg Terry or even a Kingwood Park, a Friendswood. There's some tough teams over there in that Houston area, and that's why, I always preach on playing these type of teams early on in the season, because you want to see what type of where they're at. Also, the speed of the game. The speed of the game is a little bit different in the Dallas and kind of the Houston areas, and if you're not used to that, it can overwhelm you. I know last year's game was a thriller, and I think there's a good possibility we could see them again. But you see what I think Walnut Grove came in the right mindset, say, hey, how do we get better? And that's what they did. They've beaten some really good quality teams.
So, kind of a new thing we're gonna try to start doing. Ask Rafa to pick 3 boys games, 3 girls games. That are the ones to watch for this year. The first 2, Reagan Rattlers versus Clark Cougars. the boys and the girls. The boys play at 7, and then the
It's
girls.
not at Ferris, right? It's at the grass fields, right? Correct.
No, it's. I believe it's at.
I thought it was at the grass fields. I believe it's at the grass fields.
Did I get it wrong? Oh, you might be right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's at the grass fields. That's right, Clark.
Yeah.
Grass fields 1. When I was looking at Max Prep, I misread the stadium there. Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be at the grass field. So anyone heading out there, so that's one of our 3 games to watch, for for the boys, and it's a key. Is that for the boys or for the girls? Did I give you that one? Hold on one second.
It's for both.
For both. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just double checking and see on my notes. Yes. So yeah, key game for that because it's Clark's kind of, I think that's a little sneaky game for them, for Reagan, and they always play him tough, so that's gonna be a good one. So it should be I think Clark can't kind of look ahead to the next one. So like I said, this that one should be a fun and entertaining game.
Don Hardin Athletic Complex.
Yeah, which is I think
that's
the grass fields. This should just put Max Pressure, just put the grass fields 1 and grass fields 2.
Yeah. All right. Let me fix this real quick here. Hold on a second here.
Thanks to P3 Cast for the questions. I'm sure he has more. It's probably wondering about 6A, but we'll get into that later.
There we go. NISD. So at the grass fields, that's that the boys are at 7, and the girls are at 5 for that here. So that will be the girls' matchup is I think the one with top 2 in the.
Yeah, this is a remember this
2 versus 3.
Yeah, so it's a 3-way tie for for district. This is gonna be a really good game. If Clark really wants to make a statement, this is the game that need take care of the home turf and win. This is a really good opportunity. We'll see what how it goes down. I could see this going also maybe ending up in a tie. It's just both teams have played really tough non-district schedules, and they're going to have some great results. This is gonna be a fun one to watch. So if you have a chance, like I said, make sure you head out to the grass fields at Northside.
So the next one for the boys, Bernie Greyhounds versus Piper Warriors at Bernie High School. I know it's at Bernie. I couldn't find the name of the stadium. 6 p.m. kick for this one here. We do believe 78 training. Steve is getting the VIP treatment.
For Coach Strong, yep. So
Coach Strong.
Make sure to have some of that barbecue there for him. Yep.
I will say Coach Kano was a little offended that he doesn't get a VIP treatment, but
he's got a game. He's got a game tomorrow, so he's got to worry about his game tomorrow. He can get the VIP treatment afterwards. I know he had asked us, and we're going to head out there again, so hopefully soon. So hopefully we get a chance to get out there.
I will say this is an underrated rivalry, and one that I think both Bernie and Piper are a little disappointed that it will not continue next year, is my understanding, at least.
Now that Piper's going to 6A, yep.
They may be able to still play in a non-conference game, but this has been a little fun rivalry the last couple of years between these 2 elite programs.
Yeah, this would be a fun one. Like I said, last year, like I said, Bernie finished runner up to Piper. This is a key game for them. If they can take care of business at home, win, they'll be in first place, sole position of first place, and um, good opportunity for Coach Strong and the boys to finally win that district title. And like I said, just in their second year back in 5A.
And for Piper, if you can get a draw, that is a big point to get on the road here. I know we've talked before about sometimes draws hurt you. This would not be one of those cases if you're on the road to be able to get a point.
But remember, they have 2 draws, so you don't want to end up like kind of have 4 in a row, and a draw can here. I think this game they have to win. I think they have to win this one because you have 2 draws, and I know Bernie's only got 1, but I think you really need to go get the 3 points here. Because if you do get a draw, you're still, you don't really make up any ground on them so far. So, yeah, you really, I think Piper's gonna really get out there and try to win this game.
The Lady Dragons out of Southwest travel to McCollum at Harlandale Memorial Stadium, 7 p.m. And I will say sundown or sunset at Harlandale Memorial Stadium. If you're sitting on the visitor side, is pretty. I know it sucks while the sun is going down, but being able to look and see out towards the west and see the stadium with the lights is a pretty cool experience. And I know you can say that in a couple of several different stadiums. But I will say, having been to Harlandale Memorial Stadium, that it is a good stadium to visit as a fan, both for the home and the away. Southwest, McCullum 1 versus 2. Southwest on the girls' side, like the boys, 7-0 and has not had any blemishes yet. Well, I guess the only blemish is that they did have a
shootout win
away
at Legacy.
Which in a rivalry game, I did see the early part of that game before I had to go pick up AJ. Southwest had early on had some chances, and then Legacy defense kind of tightened down for that here. But I think if Southwest could have scored early, and I know you can say this about any game, it could, I don't know if the Legacy
setting the tone. That's the key there.
But they were just a step off, or the pass was in the back instead of the front. But it was, like I said, that early in the first 5 minutes, Southwest had 2 or 3 clear opportunities to get on the board, and they missed. But you have games like that.
Yeah, for them, like I said, this one, like I said, how did Southwest, going into this game, after playing a really tough rivalry game, all that adrenaline. Can McCollum kind of catch him here? And like I said, McCollum, it was in striking distance. If they can get a result here, kind of ties, almost get inches closer, getting to tying them up for the district lead. So, big. Like I said, I think this is the biggest game for McCollum right here. Before the start of the second round of the play of the district play, a result for them here. Even a shootout win, will help them out. So, like I said, so it should be a fun one there at Harlandale Memorial Stadium.
The third one and final one on the boys, Lavernia Bears versus SanAntonio Memorial Minutemen at Edwidge Veterans Stadium, 7 p.m. kick. I believe this is on Rafa's games. I don't know if it's made the final cut, but I do mention, I do remember you discussing that this is one that might you get the appearance by Rafa.
Maybe not. We'll see.
SanAntonio Memorial, solid team. Lavernia, though, is the favorite. Your thoughts of this game at Edgewood?
This is a very good matchup. I know in the past, remember a couple of years ago, Memorial kind of took care of business with Lavernia. I know last year kind of flipped the switch on that. Very important game here because I know Cole's getting kind of like the spotlight right now with some of the stuff they've been doing, but this is the key here because, like I said, Memorial had a loss against Cole, they can't afford another loss here if they want to contend to that district title. And this, like I said, this is a tough test that they have to take care of business at home here against Lavernia. Lavernia, I know they had, like I said, a little rough start with the non-district play, but hey, that's them playing quality teams because, like I said, last year they went deep in the playoffs. Well, they want to be prepared. Good test for them here if they can get a great result, and also, I'm sure Lavernia has that date circled, Friday the 13th against Cole. But before they even get to that, they need to take care of business here against Memorial.
And then the final matchup, maybe the best one of all of them.
It's the rematch of the regional final for Division
Canyon
2.
Lake, Wimberley at Canyon Lake. I don't know what their stadium's called.
I think Hawk Stadium, probably.
Hawk Stadium. 7 p.m. kick. I don't know what else you can say. Two top programs, both in Rafa's and Steve's top 10. Probably the game of the night in the San Antonio
Maybe even in the state. I think it's probably one of the game of the nights of the state. I mean, Clash of the Titans right here. I mean, for Canyon Lake, opportunity here to kind of take that district lead here before they even face Davenport. This is going to be a big test for them, and like I said, Wimberley able to kind of, like I said, sneak by Davenport 2-1. They got it now. They have to hit the road here at the Hawk Stadium, and it's gonna be a fun one. I'm sure everyone there in Fisher and the Canyon Lake area, they're gonna enjoy it. I'm sure they'll have a nice crowd over there. It should be a fun one, and like I said, this is gonna be a classic. I could see this game maybe ending in a tie. I could see that, but I think whoever wins this game is probably the one that takes full advantage of mental mistakes. Whoever makes that one little critical mental mistake, I think that's key. I can see like a 1-0 game on this one. So because just both teams are such talented, they're deep and stuff, and it's gonna be a fun one. Like I said, I think that's probably your top game in the state of Texas.
So Rafa, we got through that. Thank you, Steve, for your rankings and your appearance on the 50/50 podcast. For us as a channel, I don't know if we'll have a show till next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Maybe a roundtable show early in the week, maybe. With it being Super Bowl Sunday, it will not be on Super Bowl Sunday. Just other stuff's going on for that here. The Olympics are jumping up. I don't know if you caught this story. New York Times, via the athletic reports, have surfaced before the Winter Olympics that alleged ski jumpers are injecting stuff into their men's part to be able to fly further. And of course, the World Doping Agency has vowed to investigate. Kudos. I was like, dude, this can't be serious. I'm like, yeah, you got.
Are they making fly like a bird or something, or
I don't.
It's like doing the ski lift or what?
I saw that and I was like, this has got to be an onion. But no, it is true. Like I don't understand. I understand. It's putting in steroids or whatever. This hyaluronic acid to help you fly. I don't think I would inject anything into my private parts, no matter how far it would. Although if you see, was it Lindsey Vaughn? Supposedly tore her ACL and she's out there.
She's still gonna go out there. That's kind of insane.
And she still moves. I saw her in the gym doing stuff that I could only dream about doing.
She's probably doing like in the Varsity Blues and getting the shots and all that.
I'm not gonna say that because
the coach is Coach Bud Kilmer as her coach.
But it is Olympic time, so for us, that I enjoy the Olympics, especially the Winter Olympics. Obviously seeing people, go down the slopes, the ice skating, and stuff like that. I always wonder why.
Hockey.
Yeah, I always wonder why basketball isn't in the Winter Olympics because it's played in the winter here. But yeah, the hockey gets pretty intense. Although I don't think NHL's
Eh,
breaking for that this
No,
this
I don't
time.
think they are. Even the women's
Uh,
hockey is real. They're rough too.
yeah. So my wife loves the curling.
The curling, yep.
Like I said here, and it's over in France. Home of the Wimby. So like I said here, it should be. And I saw something where you've got the Super Bowl, you got the Olympics, you got the Daytona 500 if you're into it. And the World Baseball Classic for
Mm-hmm.
Royce.
The Caribbean, they got the baseball, the Caribbean series is going
the
on too.
Caribbean series.
So if you have ESPN Deportes, you can watch that one. Those are some fun games. Those are some very intense.
They get crazy too.
Yep. I think they're playing in Mexico this year. So I think they have two teams in Mexico. I think I think they didn't have a team for Venezuela this year, so they had two teams for Mexico. But that's always intense watching those games.
So, but for this time, it is a great time in sports year, and then of course after this, you get into March Madness. And like I said here, soccer actually picks up here stateside. I know SAFC's had a couple of friendlies. Um, I think MLS kicks off in 2-3 weeks, if memory serves me right.
We have Champions Cup already going on. We had a couple games already.
Negative 17 degrees in the Forge. I think it was Tigris, right?
Yeah, Tigris.
And they played to a 0-0 draw. Although I did see a team
that should have been a goal. I think that should have been a goal. But, oh well. Hey, my team won, so hey, we got the 2-1 win. Going back to
what team got blown out? Was it Pumas that got blown out by San Diego?
San Diego, yeah, because they were up 1-0, and then they ended up putting 4 goals on Keylor Navas.
And I heard that they stayed in the locker room for an extra long period of time. So like I said here, for sports fans, depending on what your cup of tea is through there here, and of course the Spurs if you're in San Antonio did not do anything at the trade deadline. I don't know if you thought they would or wouldn't, but from a sports perspective, make sure you got your DVR set or you got your Peacock or whatever. I guess it'd be Peacock is probably the best way to go since it's all on NBC, depending on your TV selection of choice or app of choice.
I think Telemundo is also hosting the Olympics.
Yeah, well, that's part of the NBC Universal area there. But Rafa, any final thoughts for you? For me, it's just like a smorgasbord of sports, and then obviously the whole ski jumper injecting stuff. I'm like, dude, that can't be real.
Hopefully the goalies out there don't get any ideas, so they can do those world class diving saves. So stay off of that. This is my final thought. Like I said, just looking forward to, like I said, great weekend of soccer. Just some key, like I mentioned, we mentioned some three key games, for both the boys and the girls. I don't know, there's other ones too. I think like I said, all games are important, but like I said, those are kind of that we kind of caught our eye. District races, there's a lot of them are very tight district races, so that's good. There's some good competitive teams. I think this year we have a lot more better teams. I think we mentioned like some districts have closed the gap.
Is it better or kind of teams are more?
They're closing that gap on the talent wise. I think some teams are getting better, and they're taking full advantage of a lot of the resources they have. Because I mean, you mentioned like a team like Judson's, because they're doing well.
They look good when I saw them up in the Smithson Valley tournament.
Yeah, San Marcos is one too. That's really I know Steve mentioned it because he saw him last year, and I saw him on a video when they played my former team, and they're getting better. And so it's and then like I said, you have some surprise teams, like I said, like the Coles. They've really they learned a lot from last year. They're getting better this year. So it's like I said, I think the talent wise is just getting better and better here. And then we'll see for next year with the realignment. It's going to be we're going to see some interesting matchups. Going in and stuff. So it should be a fun one. And then like I said, next week I'll be in Midland, Texas. That's where I'll be at, and I think Tuesday night I'll be at Ratliff Stadium to cheer on the Permian versus the Midland Lee should be a good one there at Ratliff, and then make my way back over here. Hopefully on Thursday, I'm gonna try to see if I can make it in time for the paint the wall. So I got to take some measurements there at the stadiums for some tifos and stuff. So we'll see. So hopefully I get it back in time for that. I told Claire no promises, but I'll try my best. So
you got to put the pedal to the metal a little bit to get back in a safe manner.
And I don't have to tell Matt. Yeah, you're gonna have to do the work for me and stuff and so forth. But like I said, and then we have that game. Like I said, the STM game coming up on the 21st, so that should be a fun one. It's early in the morning. I guess our first ever breakfast tailgate. I guess you can say. So we'll probably have a little preseason. This knowing these guys, this really want to tailgate. So we'll see. We'll see how that. I got to ask Matt. Like, who's bringing out the tacos? I guess. So, but should be a fun one.
Is somebody bringing the flat grill?
Yeah.
But what's life without goals? We're out of here. Hopefully, everybody has a safe Super Bowl. Be smart. Don't drink and drive. So if you go to a friend's house to watch, call a ride. Have a designated driver. Be smart. If you are going to a public place, same thing. I guess the question here, since we're talking about it, Seahawks or Patriots?
I hope both teams lose. I don't care.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know. It should maybe
probably go more Seahawks.
I mean, they're probably the favorites, but knowing the Patriots, you never know. It is the Patriots, so you never know if Tom Brady shows up and stuff, and we'll see. Maybe he'll slip in a dollar bill or two.
I think it'll be a better Super Bowl than most people think. I think it'll be a defensive Super Bowl. I do think Bad Bunny will do a good job at halftime for that here, despite all the bullshit that's going on around that. It'll be interesting to see it. To me, the commercials have under delivered the last few years, so I still kind of expect that to kind of under deliver. But hopefully, people will be smart. It's out in California. Hopefully, some good weather. Just be smart. And I think I saw Steve's barbecuing. So if you check him out before that here, I forget his name here, but
Royal Barbecue. Yeah,
Royal Barbecue. I think he had a little menu, but just be smart, have fun, and be safe. What's life without goals?